We're recording.
Okay, welcome to the October 18th, 2024 meeting of the Knox County Board of Assessment Review. The meeting will come to order. This is a public proceeding. Unless the board specifically goes into executive session, you have the right to hear everything that is being said and to look at all of the exhibits that are offered. Please notify the chair if you are unable to hear or to see. The board expects that this hearing and the subsequent deliberation will take no longer than 2 hours in total. The board works from a prepared agenda. There is one item on today's agenda, the hearing of the appeal of G. Scott Gazelle and Judith Bonzi to this board of the denial of their appeal to the assessor of the town of Rockport in the matter of the assessment of their property at 36 Amesbury Street, map 29, lot 19. Any person wishing to address the board may do so in accordance with the following procedures. The board will initially confirm with the applicants and the assessor the current assessed value of the property and the requested abatement amount. The board will then open the public hearing and ask the appellants to present their case briefly and concisely. The board has studied the submitted material, so please just present your points with your proof of them. The board expects this part of the hearing to take no longer than 15 minutes. The board members will then have an opportunity to ask the questions of the appellant, and the assessor will have an opportunity to ask questions of the appellant. The board will then ask the assessor to present his case briefly and concisely, presenting his points and the proof of them. The board expects this part of the hearing to take no longer than 15 minutes. The board members will then have an opportunity to ask questions of the assessor, and the appellant will have an opportunity to ask questions of the assessor. When there's no further testimony from either side, the board will then close the public hearing and deliberate and make a decision on the abatement appeal. Following a decision on the appeal, towards the end of the meeting or at a subsequent meeting shortly hereafter, the board will prepare a written decision that will be mailed to the applicant within 10 days of the board's vote. The board may receive any oral or documentary the board may receive any oral or documentary evidence, as such evidence is restricted to the subject matter of the agenda item. The board has studied the submissions of the parties. The board shall exclude irrelevant, immaterial, or unduly repetitious evidence. Citizens shall refrain from interrupting other speakers. This meeting is being electronically recorded, and it is difficult to hear what is being said when multiple people speak at the same time. Citizens shall avoid personalities and conduct themselves in a civil, courteous manner expected of all meeting participants. Speakers should address questions through the chair. Speakers shall not attempt to engage in debate with other meeting participants. Any questions? If none, then let us move to the first agenda item, the abatement appeal of G. Scott Gazelle and Judith Bonzi on the property at 36 Amesbury Street, Rockport, tax map 29, lot 19. Anyone wishing to testify in this matter, please stand, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Thank you very much. Let us first confirm the ownership of the parcel. G. Scott Gazelle and Judith Bonzi are joint owners. Any others?
No.
Thank you. Let us next confirm the current assessed value of the property and the requested abatement amount. According to the application, the assessment of the land is $956,800. The assessment of the buildings is $2,505,100. The total assessment is $3,512,800. Is the assessor in agreement with these figures?
Yes.
Thank you. According to the application, the owner's opinion of current value is land 0, building 0. Total of $2,450,000. The abatement requested is $1,062,800. That's a 30% difference. The appellant is citing that the judgment of the assessor was irrational or so unreasonable in light of the circumstances that the property is substantially overvalued and an injustice results and there was unjust discrimination. Correct?
The only thing is I just put 0 for the land and the property and land in the building because I just put a total. So I didn't mean
Just
to,
a total, not
Just a total.
not meaning
I
that
didn't
those
mean to
are
imply that they were
zero.
worth
Okay.
0.
All right. Yes, that would make a difference. The tax year for which the abatement is requested is April 1st, 2023.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Thank you. I would entertain a motion to stipulate that the appellants do or do not have standing in this matter by virtue of the ownership of their property.
So moved.
Second. Thank you. All in favor? I would entertain a motion to stipulate that the appellant's application to this board was or was not timely filed.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. The appellants may present their case, although we only have one.
Scott, you're up.
Thank you. Would you like me to stand?
Yes, whatever.
So I'm Scott Gazelle. My wife, Judy Bonte, and I own the property. We're both full-time residents of Rockport. It's our only home. We live there year-round. I'm also a member of the planning board in Rockport, so involved in the community. I want to thank you in advance for your time. I know that the odds are stacked against me today. I've read all of your written decisions that I can find online, and it's interesting to me. They all end with the same statement. The board finds that the taxpayer's testimony was not persuasive as to the, you know the rest, right? I couldn't find anyone that didn't say that, and I frankly, well, I hope so, and I hope this will be one. I found it a bit astonishing because it implies a level of perfection among assessors that doesn't exist in other professions that I'm aware of, doctors, lawyers, engineers. We all occasionally make mistakes. But today, what I'm going to try and convince you is that in this case, the assessor did make a mistake. He assessed our property at over $3.5 million. It's a 3-bedroom home in the middle of Rockport, not on the waterfront. And there's simply no way that a house, a 3-bedroom home in the middle of Rockport, is worth more than $3.5 million on the open market. I know you have my materials. I'm going to just summarize the points that I think are important. As we all know, just value is defined as market value, so I, through a FOIA request, requested data from the town on recent residential sales, and I looked at that. I looked at specifically the houses that sold for more than $2 million. There were 41 total sales in the period from 2020 to 2023. I chose that time because it's sort of it's the COVID fueled run up and then some normalization. So only 13 of the 41 sold for over $2 million, and of those 13, 11 were waterfront properties. We're not on the water. The waterfront properties had an average of 5 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, and 4,659 square feet of living space. Most of them had a pool, a dock, additional homes, other outbuildings, and their average sales price was $4.16 million. Interestingly enough, the assessor has an average appraised value of those homes of $4.7 million, 15% more than they actually sold for over the same period of time. Only 2 of the 13 homes that sold over $2 million were not waterfront properties. These were 159 Russell and 150 Russell. They sold for $2.7 million and $2.6 million. 150 Russell's the most recent. It sold for $2.65 million. It has 6 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms, 7,800 square feet of living space, beautiful gardens, and views that are spectacular down the harbor, unobstructed views that are better than ours, I would say. We believe that these 2 houses that I just mentioned establish an effective upper limit for the sales price of a non-waterfront home in Rockport Village. As I said, they're both larger, more bedrooms, more bathrooms than our house, and an equal level of finish. I then looked at other assessed valuations in Rockport. There were 57 properties with an assessed valuation greater than $2.5 million. These homes had an average of 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, and 4,800 square feet of living space. 49 of the 57 were waterfront properties. Again, most had additional amenities such as a dock, a pool, additional homes, other outbuildings. There were only 2 non-waterfront properties that were assessed higher than ours. And these are worth noting. 68 Beauchamp, which has multiple homes on the property on 15.69 acres. The multiple homes include 6 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, and 10,000 square feet of living space. And 49 Pinnacle, which is a 6-bedroom, 7-bathroom, 5,197 square foot house on 20 acres. We don't feel either of these is comparable to ours because they're much larger, more bedrooms, more bathrooms, and much larger lots. Ours, as a reminder, is 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and 4,800 square feet of living space. Again, 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. We then looked at what we felt were comparable properties with lower valuations. We've identified 5. All of them are within a mile of our house, so in the immediate neighborhood. These homes, and they're in the application, but they have an average of 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 75 square feet of living space, and 4 acres of land. So fairly close to ours. We have 3 bedrooms, but other than that, they're fairly close. Their average assessed value was $1.9 million. Our house, 3 bedrooms only, 3 bathrooms, 4,800 square feet of living space, and 5.3 acres of land. So 1 less bedroom, approximately the same lot size. But our assessed value is over $3.5 million, not $1.9 million, over $3.5 million. Our valuation is 1.8 times the average of the comparable properties and nearly 3 times the assessed valuation of 33 Amesbury. I point out 33 Amesbury because it's directly across the street from our house. It's a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom home that has 3 fully furnished floors and a fully finished basement with a high-tech media room. It's listed as a 1800s house, but the fact is it was taken down. The roof was taken out, all the walls were taken down. It was taken down to the foundation and some studs and rebuilt. It took over 2 years to do that. We're very good friends with the neighbors across the street. They told us what they spent on it, and they spent more to renovate that house than we spent to build our house, and it took longer to renovate that house than it took to build our house. It has granite and marble counters, lots of custom cabinets, detailed molding, wainscoting, coffered ceilings, much higher level finish than our house. It's valued at $1.3 million. 1/3 the price, nearly 1/3 the value of ours. It's directly across the street. It's immaculately maintained. They just finished repainting the house 3 years after they finished the renovation. As far as I can determine, there's no non-waterfront home that's ever sold in Rockport for more than $3 million. I think that the assessor misunderstands and uses to his advantage the brief run-up that we saw in prices during COVID. I mean, this was an unprecedented public health event, and we saw small houses sell for much more than they were worth. But these were people from Boston and New York and Philadelphia getting away from their cities and not selling their homes in their cities. They were looking for anything they could get, and these were principally smaller homes selling for much more than they were worth. They weren't buying big homes, and they weren't the effect, and it's well described in the economics literature, the effect was on the smaller homes. The run-up in the price was on the smaller homes. In effect, it compressed the real estate market. But that's behind us. These people have all left, not all of them, but many of them have left. The homes are for sale. If you look at the different realtors' websites, there's lots of houses on the market and they're not selling. We also had extremely, record low interest rates during that period of time, and now the interest rates are high. So the affordability of the houses has gone down and the houses are sitting on the market. I'd like to highlight a recent sale in Rockport, which is 220 South Street. It recently sold for $3.5 million. That house is on a 54-acre lot. It has 4 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, and 5,144 square feet of living space. You might or might not consider it waterfront property. It wasn't really waterfront property until they built their own lake, and the house now sits on that lake. But the lake is not just a lake, it's actually a swimming pool the size of a lake. So it's a giant swimming pool that looks like a lake, but it's crystal clear and has a beautiful stone bottom and everything else. I want to read a bit from the Sotheby's listing of this house to tell you what an extraordinary house it is. It sits on 54 plus acres, featured in Architectural Digest, recently renovated to the highest standards by Cold Mountain Builders. The current owners purchased the home and collaborated with Jersey Ice Cream Company and Cold Mountain to create a stunning country retreat. It's filled with natural light, thanks to windows, and it offers distant views of Penobscot Bay and of the beautiful Emma Kelly designed landscape surrounding the home, highlighted by a crystal clear private swimming lake that was added to the property. Living spaces are well proportioned, includes a professional eating kitchen with white marble counters, Lacanche French range, wood burning stove, cozy den, etc., etc. Property includes a bunkhouse above a detached 2-car garage, heated studio, greenhouse, shed, and a chicken coop. More than 54 acres of land, has private walking trails, additional natural ponds, outdoor spaces, patio, fire pit, swimming pond, deck with a main cedar hot tub, open hay fields, beautiful gardens, lovely stone walls, etc., 2 level 2 EV chargers. I pulled the Architectural Digest article, and it notes that the couple that transformed this property is noted for transforming old properties into exquisite dwellings, and that their method is famously extreme. I've actually been to the house. It was owned by friends of ours, and I've swum in the pool, which is really spectacular. It's a giant lake, like a pool. Our house is nothing like this. We couldn't afford Cold Mountain Builders. We talked to them, but they were too expensive. Our house is smaller, has fewer bedrooms, doesn't have a 54-acre lot, wasn't featured in Architectural Digest, doesn't have its own custom-made swimming lake. We don't have a greenhouse, a bunkhouse over a garage, or 54 acres of land. But the assessor feels that our property is worth more than this house just sold for, which to me is astonishing. Okay, I've summarized my arguments. Now I'd like to respond to some of the points in the assessor's statement. First, the assessor asserts that the deputy assessor attempted to inspect our property as it was being constructed, but that was denied access. This is sort of true. In fact, what happened was the builder called me and said someone was trespassing on the property and asked that I come over. We were living across the town at the time, and I came over and did meet the deputy assessor and an assistant, and I asked them to leave because they had trespassed on the property without permission, without an appointment, and in an active construction site where there were tools and nails and everything laying around, and I thought this was both inappropriate and dangerous. The contractor also noted that it was inappropriate and dangerous because he didn't want people wandering around the house. I told them that they wanted to make an appointment, they could do so, and they never did subsequent to that. The assessor also asserts that we did not provide information that was responsive to 2 706A requests, noting that we refused to provide photographs of the house. This is a false assertion, though. We responded to both requests in a thorough manner, and we did that rapidly by email, and then responded the same day to additional follow-up questions that he asked. That was January 24, 2023. And then in an email that was sent on February 6, 2023, the assessor wrote to me, I'll read only one sentence, "With this email, I am removing the photos from the 706A request." He noted that we were not required to provide photos. He subsequently, on the 8th of February 2023, wrote, "You provided the information asked for, and in a subsequent email exchange responded to my questions. Clarifying my understanding of what you built, you have satisfied the 706A request." And then in an email sent to the Town of Rockport manager on September 5th, 2024, he noted that I did not provide photographs of the inside of the house, but did provide a true and perfect list, and noted that I said that I was not required to provide photos and that I was correct. And then he wrote, in my judgment, he did comply with the law. So I think the assertion that we were non-responsive to the 706A request is false. It's interesting to me that in my FOIA request, I requested data. So he sent this long list to us. What's the size of your baseboard? Is there molding above the baseboard, et cetera, et cetera? And you have my response, very detailed. It's a normal house. We have flat trim. We don't have molding or wainscoting or coppered ceilings. We provided the dimensions of the trim, and the walls are gypsum wallboard, et cetera, et cetera. So I asked for similar information in my FOIA request on other houses, which he claimed not to have. But then in his response, it's very interesting to me, Exhibit M, he actually provides a spreadsheet of comparable data from multiple other homes. And in the 2023-24 Town of Rockport budget on page 172 of 623, he notes the purchase of this technology called Mobile Assessor, which is a system that allows direct connection to office computers to transfer data from inspections into the town's database. I went to the Mobile Assessor website, and it shows detailed pictures of how detailed data on all the sorts of things that he asked me about could be transferred. And in fact, this Exhibit M is evidence that they did transfer it, so that he failed to fully satisfy the FOIA request. In any event, I find this interesting because it notes the subjectivity of the assessment. For example, there's a site index that grades the view, good view, harbor view, et cetera, et cetera. One of the comparable properties that we noted, he has a sort of a no view or a number 2, scrape score number 2. But this house has beautiful unobstructed views all the way across Lily Pond into conservation land. We do have a view of the harbor. If you were to look, it's about this big. From here over and from here over, it's obstructed by trees. So we have a beautiful, nice keyhole view of the harbor. But, I don't know that people value a keyhole view of the harbor more than a view of Lily Pond or whatnot, but we're rated, I think, a 5 versus 2 for the other one. But this spreadsheet also shows a number of other details about these homes that the assessor claimed not to have stored. And one of them that I find interesting is the depreciation. So, for example, the house across the street, 33 Amesbury, that was just completely redone, that I mentioned, is listed as an 1858 house and almost fully depreciated. Well, again, that's not how it works. When the house is rebuilt, you reset the depreciation clock. So, in terms of the review of the comparable properties, he says that the four of the 5 are not comparable because they were built in the 1800s. Again, this is not really fair because they were originally built in the 1800s but completely rebuilt or substantially renovated. They're all beautiful homes, well maintained, within a mile of our house. I've been in 3 of the 5 because I'm friends with those people, and the level of detail is comparable to the level of detail in our house. And he would know this because he's got detailed information from me on the size of the baseboard and trim and everything else. I would also say that in general, home buyers are not attaching necessarily a dollar figure to a square footage or this or that. They're basically looking for features, right? And so they're looking at a 3-bedroom house or a 5-bedroom house, and they're all increasingly looking for things like media rooms and saunas and this sort of thing. Well, we don't have any of those things. We don't have a media room. We have one TV in the house. We don't watch it very often, but we have one. We have no media room. We have no sauna. We don't have any of those other things. We don't have access to the water. We don't have steam showers, all the rest of the things that many of these other houses have. So, no 2 houses are comparable, but I would say they are relatively comparable because they're near us. They have more bedrooms, similar size lots. Our house is new. We think it's a beautiful house. It's the house we wanted to build, but it's a 3-bedroom house. I'd also like to briefly touch on his defense of the use of the cost method to determine valuation. First of all, when I met with the assessor, we informally requested him to reconsider the valuation. He told me, I didn't have a cost figure in my value in mind for your house, and as I noted in our original application, it was clear to me that he did, because over time, as we corrected some misassumptions with the KRT firm about the square footage, each time we corrected an assumption and the square footage went down, the quality grade on the house went up, so that the valuation stayed the same. And now he's written that he did, in fact, use the cost method, and he cites 3 textbooks appraising residential properties where he takes some of the quotes. I've got all of these books, so I've read the relevant sections. And he notes that that book notes that the cost approach is supported by the principle of balance, and if a dwelling is an over-improvement, it may contribute some value to the property, but not maybe as much as a similar structure elsewhere, essentially. And, I would admit that if our house was on the water, it would be worth $3 million, but it's not. We couldn't afford a waterfront lot. We bought the lot we bought and built the house we wanted to build. The book Property Assessment Valuation states that the cost approach is, and I'm quoting, especially useful for assessing properties for which sales and income data are scarce, citing special purpose, industrial, public utility, and railroad properties. There's plenty of sales data on houses in Rockport and even in our neighborhood, and those data could have been used. And then lastly, in the book Appraisal of Real Estate, the authors once again note that the cost approach is used to, and I quote, is used to value special purpose or specialty properties and other properties that are not frequently exchanged in the market. This does not apply to houses in Rockport. The last thing I'll say is the AS ratio analysis that I presented. So I presented an analysis where I took the sales, and I took the assessed value, and I took the sales price at the time when the house sold, in that interval between April 2021 and March 2022, and looked at the current assessed valuation. In economics, this would be known as an age-parent cohort analysis. So I took basically a cohort from a period of time, let them age to a future, and then looked at their assessed valuation. And what I showed, and it's in my application, is that the higher value properties, the AS ratio drifted up. So a bias against the owners of higher value properties. And the lower value properties, it did not. So the average, both the mean and the median value of the homes over $2 million, the AS ratio was 1.9 versus 1.09, suggesting that there's an intentional bias against these homes and a movement to over-assess them. And previously, if you remember at the beginning of my comments, I noted that for those waterfront homes that sold for over $2 million, their average sales price, I believe, was like $4.1 million, but they were assessed at $4.7 million. They just sold, and yet they're assessed for more than they sold. The assessor provided his own analysis using, instead of the current assessed value, the assessed value at the time of the sale, and while that may be useful to satisfy state requirements for ratios, it's not the point I'm making, which is that they're arbitrarily moving the values of the high-priced homes. So I'll finish now to say that I believe that our assessed valuation is irrational and unreasonable, and it's so irrational and unreasonable that it constitutes unjust discrimination. The value is inconsistent with recent property sales in the town. It's higher than comparable properties by it's not even close by a large margin, and it's both recent sales and homes in the immediate neighborhood. And that's all I have to say. Again, thank you for your time. Sorry about the emotion.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Yes.
Could we get a confirmation on the assessed value of the building? Because on the application, it appears to be slightly different than what's on the bill and the tax card, and I just want to make sure we're looking at the correct number. On the application, it says $2,505,100. It's not a big difference, but on the bill, I see $2,556,000 for the building.
I would defer to Terry on that.
I'm looking for the pictures.
I know that there was one point where I pointed out to him that they had said that we had a second kitchen or a second kitchen in our building, which we don't have, and he removed that, so that might explain it, but I'm not sure.
That is, it's a $5,000 difference, and that's exactly what it was.
Well, it's
So we issued an abatement for $5,000.
So what is, all right. I mean,
So-
the number comes out, if you look at the application and you add the land in the building, they don't total the number there. The number's the same, like 3512800.
We find the application.
The 3512800 is our current assessed valuation because I just paid my taxes.
So I think it's the 2556. Do you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. See, this is what I'm talking about here. If you add those two, that you don't get that.
You don't get that.
Right. But I just want to make sure you're all using the same number.
The 3512800 though, I know because I just wrote the check and turned it into the town a couple days ago, and I remember seeing that number on the assessment. And yeah, and I focused on the total because, I sort of feel that people are buying the property.
I think we're trying to determine the amount of the abatement that you're asking for.
Exactly.
Is it 106,800 or 106,2,800? Or
So if I've done the math wrong, apologize, but I'm asking for an abatement down to the number that I've listed as the 2.45, whatever that number is. Is that an answer to your question?
mine, yes.
Thank you.
Are you doing that math?
I'm just going to check it real quick.
1.494200. Assuming the contention has nothing to do with the land value.
My contention is the overall value of the property.
The argument seems to focus on the building. So the land, we can assume the land is okay.
Well, I'm not sure. I don't see myself focusing on the building only. My focus is on the properties, which I included both the acreage of the property and the building because I don't see. I mean, certainly when I bought a property, I'm buying the property. I'm getting the land and the house, and I think that I don't know how to apportion value to the land and the house separately.
We do not
There's no argument.
grant an abatement based on just the land or just the buildings, the entire assessment. So.
Right.
Okay, so do we have a corrected number for number 9?
No, I think the intention
Is that what
is
it's
is the building value should be 2,556,000, I believe, because if you add those, then you get 351,800.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right.
Okay, so the owner's opinion of current value is still 2,450,000
Right.
even?
Apparently.
And the land is static. As far as reaching. We're going to assume the land value is not a condition, is not being contested.
And
We don't worry
unless,
about,
unless the town has already reduced building value, that's what I was kind of getting at. Is the current assessed value for the building still 2,556?
Yeah, 2,551.
Oh, I haven't seen that number.
did you mean 2,505? What?
We've got three numbers.
We got too many numbers
I mean,
here.
it seems like the application should be reflective of what,
Hold on.
I don't have heartburn with getting to 2.450 thousand.
Okay. But we know that number 8C, the 2,450,000 even,
Yeah.
is what the goal is of the appellant, right?
Right.
Okay.
If I may, I think when I received the additional, when I wrote the additional, the application, the 3518, that might have been the value before the $5,000 abatement. And so I was using the value I had on the paper that I had on my desk. So that probably explains it.
Yeah.
But again, my focus is the total value of the property.
Right.
And I think the total, I'm not apportioning a certain value to the house and a certain value to the land. I think that's why I put just.
You want 5,700?
Okay. I'm okay with it.
So that would be anything requested, 1,557,800.
Okay. Just have to change the numbers a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, we can keep going.
All right, we're good. Does the assessor have any questions for the appellant? Thank you. The assessor is up. Thank you.
If it's all right with the board, I'll just give a brief opening statement, and then Carrie will follow up with a similarly brief statement. We'll keep it very short, because I know what you'd really like to do is ask questions, and the taxpayer ask questions as well, so I'll keep this very brief. So the subject property is a new build, and Title 36 of the Maine Revised Statute, Section 701A, mandates assessors. It says assessors shall consider age, condition, use, type of construction, location, design, and physical features when coming to the just valuation of a property. They must consider these aspects. So given that the property was a new build, the assessor initially lacked information upon which to assess the property's value, and so initiated dialogue with the taxpayer in attempts to gain more information. Before taxes were committed, the assessor requested to access the site. He also sent a 706A request prior to commitment. While the taxpayer did provide information about features and attributes of the property, the taxpayer did not grant access to the property and did not supply photographs of the property, nor did he apply any appraisals thereof. The assessor considered each of the three approaches, and as Dr. Gazelle mentioned, ended up relying primarily on the cost approach because it was a new build and he'd been denied the ability to gather significant information on the property firsthand. The State Board has previously stated that the cost approach is, quote, especially appropriate for relatively new property, here such as the subject property. Beyond being a new build, the assessor had minimal information upon which he could gauge the grade and value of the property, along with many of the factors that he is required to consider under 701A. Because he did, however, after multiple attempts of not receiving access to the property, he did gain access to the estimated construction cost. Using this value and the value of the land, the assessor was able to extrapolate a valuation of $3.5 million, roughly. After commitment and the filing of the abatement application, the assessor again sent a 706A request, which counsel of the taxpayer responded to, but did not provide any additional information therein. In the abatement application, the taxpayer provided a number of properties that he deemed comparable. It's the position of the assessor that only one of these properties is comparable enough to warrant adjustment. The state constitution does indeed require that similarly situated properties are treated substantially similarly, and often this requires adjusting properties to meet the specifications and descriptions of these properties. Here, when that is done, and I believe we submitted that as Exhibit N to the similarly situated property, that property's valuation when adjusted is $3.4 million, so roughly the same as the subject property's valuation here. Finally, the basis for the taxpayer's discrimination claim incorrectly compared current valuations by 2022 sales prices. When adjusted to compare 2022 valuations to 2022 sales prices, it is clear that higher value homes are not systematically overassessed, and indeed, to the contrary, the ratio is lower for high value homes than it is for other properties in town. Simply put, the taxpayer has a heavy burden here to show that the assessment was manifestly wrong. We do not believe that he has shown that, nor has he successfully shown with affirmative evidence the just value of the property. We believe that upon review of the record, you will not be compelled, as required, to find that the assessor's judgment was manifestly wrong or that the taxpayer has presented credible evidence as to the just value. At this point, the assessor will rest on the material submitted and welcomes your questions to address any concerns that you have about the process. And I'm now going to let Carrie briefly speak as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would like to ask a question of Carrie before he begins. We need the ratio, certified ratio, and the quality rating of the assessment.
In Rockport as a whole? Last year
Well,
was- last year was-
wouldn't it be the subject property would be the same as the town?
Subject property didn't sell.
We're talking about the ratio and the certified, or you certify the ratio of the assessment.
Yeah, in 2023, it was certified at 100%.
Was that the real ratio, or was that a
Yeah,
rounded?
because we had done an update that, yeah, okay, so the actual ratio was 2023, 95%. Hang on one second. What I'm trying to find is, I have a document somewhere here that says that the actual ratio is either 94 or 95.
If you run into anything that shows the quality rating, I'll do that too.
Yeah, oh, my ratio says 30 outside. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry, I don't have that, Mary. I can tell you that the quality rating was less than 20, and the actual ratio was 95%, give or take a point. The certified ratio was 100%.
Okay, sorry about that.
Sorry. I'll find that piece of paper as soon as this hearing is over.
Okay.
So I just wanted to briefly say that the courts have given assessors wide latitude in choosing evaluation methods. Here I have done what I could with minimal cooperation from the property owner. I have used the building permit figure for the building, added it to the land value, and that's the value. Because building permits are notoriously low estimates of cost, the value is probably too low. But by using it, I'm achieving a rough equity. In the future, the value of this property will rise and fall according to market adjustments made to the cost tables dictated by the market. And I just want to briefly touch on a few things that Dr. Griselle mentioned to you. About the 706A responses. I agree that photographs are not a requirement. When you read 706A, it talks about providing a true and perfect list. Assessors have differed on what exactly that means. Does it include photographs? Does it include inspections? It's not specific on that, and there is no case law further defining it. So rather than fight a battle that I wasn't sure I wanted to spend Lockport money on deciding whether or not photographs should be considered part of a true and perfect list, I agreed with Dr. Gazelle, and I said you met all the requirements of my first photo. Of my first 706 request. The second request, no information was given at all. We asked for three things. We again asked for an inspection. We asked for insurance information. What was the third thing? And appraisals. We were told that there were no appraisals. We were told that insurance information was none of our business, and we were told we could not have an inspection. So that, while Dr. Gazelle characterized it as they cooperated with or responded to both 706A requests, I'll agree on the first one. I don't agree on the second one. This information about the AS ratio of deciding on a different methodology, that's not how we assess. When we come up with a ratio, we use sales and values from the same year. Had Dr. Gazelle done that with lower value properties, he would have seen much higher ratios on them than he did on the upper ones. Because somewhere in here, the paper I was looking for shows that when you apply the right year value to the sale, the ratio for higher value property is actually lower than the entire town. You can't just take now and invent or use a different methodology. What the way I did it is the way assessors do it. And I'll leave it at that. I appreciate hearing about that pool. They don't have a permit for it, and I didn't know about it. So I made a note on their property record card about the pool and about the comparisons. You can't. A remodeled house from the 1800s is not the same as a brand new house built in 2022. It's just not. They're not comparable. There's no basis of comparison. Again, I heard things about a house that I didn't know about. I'm glad to know it. I'll follow up on it at some future time. But we can only deal with what we know, what we have, and we take that information anywhere we can get it. I'll say one last thing that I want to bring up. That when the deputy assessor and the admin assistant, the two of them that went over there, they asked whatever builder they encountered if they could come in and have a look, and they were told they could. Later on, Dr. Gazelle came in and he asked them to leave. That they would not have been there trespassing, they would not have gone onto the property without permission. That's not how we do things. So that's just a wrong characterization. And finally, he mentioned that the information on the spreadsheet here, Exhibit M, this had nothing to do. He said that I didn't give him information on the FOA request that is here on Exhibit M. This is not what he was asking for. What he was asking for, he said that you got an extensive list from me of attributes in my building. You must have that. On other ones, I want copies of them. And as I explained in my response to the FOA, I have never been denied access. And so therefore, I've never had to resort to asking for that list that you supplied. And I don't have them. Nor do I keep notes. When I inspect a property, I don't keep the notes because I don't want to have to give them up at a FOA and violate somebody's privacy. If I make notes about what's inside a house, I don't want to have that liable for questioning because it's somebody else's house and that information can stay there. So, okay, that's about it. I'm happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions from the board for the assessor?
I think I might need a little explanation about Exhibit N.
And
Yes. and I apologize if I'm just not getting it, but it's the tax card for 25 Lime Rock.
Oh, okay.
But did you, so it looks like there's the real 25 Lime Rock, and then you did this, can you explain to me exactly what you did there?
Well-
Did you guys see this? So, that's what 25 Lime Rock really looks like, and then you did this to make it match with the subject property, right? Okay. But I'm not an assessor, so I don't quite get that.
Yeah, here you want to explain that.
I'd be happy to explain it. Will you find my copy of it?
Are those two separate buildings?
No, this matches the subject property layout.
What I did here on a property record card is what appraisers do on a appraisal grid, where they'll say, okay, the subject and the comp, there's a difference between them. So the appraiser will make an adjustment to compensate for or add on to the subject, so it can become more comparable, the comp to the subject. And all I did here was do it on the property record card.
So the actual 25 Lime Rock is a very small lot, right? Like a half an acre?
Yes.
And then you made it almost the same size to
Right.
comp it? Okay.
Right. And it's the same thing with the building and the key attributes to the building.
Okay. All right. When I was going through this stuff ahead of time, I was a little confused.
Yeah. I hope that explains it.
Yes, thank you.
Are there other questions for the assessor from the board? Jim?
You mentioned that the costs on the building permits are notoriously inaccurate. Do you have evidence of that?
Right, evidence of value.
Are all new constructions based on the permit costs?
No. Usually we get to inspect them and speak to the contractor and the owner and get enough information.
Thank you.
Could I ask okay, on your second 706A request, you asked for insurance, evidence, and appraisals. What were you looking for in those two things?
I was looking, on the appraisal, I was looking to see what valuation somebody else put on it and that the bank was willing to mortgage. I called the mortgage that they have on this property is with Camden National Bank, so I called Camden National Bank. I asked for the mortgage department. I identified myself as the assessor for Rockport, and I said I wanted to know is, would you write a $2.7 million mortgage on a property without an appraisal being procured? And they told me no. So I was told there was no appraisal.
The
And so the insurance information.
appraisal
so what-
needs to be done to be relevant in assisting any information to be used in assessing the property. The appraisal would need to be done for assessment purposes.
Sure,
This is not
sure,
the-
absolutely.
Yeah. But were you looking for appraisals that were done for assessment purposes?
I was looking for whatever information I could get because I had so little. Anything I could do, like triangulate. And so if I had that information from an appraisal, and I had this information from the insurance, and I got this little bit of information about what the amount of cost of construction on the building permit. And I've now got 3 pieces of something, which is a little bit more than nothing. I was left with, I only had one, as it turned out, which was the building permit.
Okay, so on the insurance, question. All I know is I own a home and the insurance covers the property from the foundation up. It does not cover the foundation, does not cover the land. So how, but it does cover personal property, I mean furniture and whatever else is in the house. So how would that be a help in determining the assessed value?
Well, you just said it, they would have a number in there for the building from the foundation up, and they would separate that from the personal property. So now you're telling me that I would get a decent estimate.
No,
of
I'm
what-
not telling you that.
Well, that's what I'm hearing. That there would be a decent estimate of what the building is valued at. I know in my homeowners in policy, it's what I hope I would get it if my building was to burn up or something.
Yeah.
It's, you know, thank you. But anyway, that's the point of insurance.
Are there other questions?
Dr. Gazelle referred to a property sold for 3.5, 54 acres with the pond.
Yep.
Do you know when that sale date was?
Yeah, yeah, that's hard.
I love that one.
I'm having trouble navigating all the paperwork.
Yeah, so I,
Doesn't
I'm
seem
having a difficult time.
hundreds.
Exhibit P.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's sold March 21st, 2024. Right near that property, less than a quarter mile away, probably a lot less, is another property valued at $3,268,800. Both of them quite far from the ocean.
Do we have that tax card?
Yes, that's Exhibit O. There's an Exhibit Q as well that has a property that's not on the ocean. It hasn't sold, but it's listed. It was listed in February of 2024 for $4.5 million. It's near the ocean, as Dr. Goodell is, but it's not on it.
Which exhibit is that?
I'm sorry?
Which exhibit is that?
Q.
Oh, Q.
Q.
I don't have a key.
Dr. Gazelle, which? Or
Sorry?
Mr. Whiteman, which exhibit is Dr. Gazelle's property?
L.
L.
When we're talking about specific property, Dr. Gazelle mentioned 150 Russell Avenue. So as not to overload you with paperwork, I didn't include that here. I have it in my case here, but that is a unique property. It's a church that was converted to a residence. It has a lot of challenge. I worked very closely with the owners as they were trying to sell it. And as it turned out, they sold it. I think it might have taken them 2 years to sell it. And they sold it during an update that we were doing. It was probably 2022. And that made it easy to value it because the buyers were the market. So I was able to use what they paid for it to value the property because that's quite unique.
August of 2000.
I'm sorry?
August 2023 is right.
Is when it's sold. Thank you. We were doing update that year as well.
I didn't even see that return.
You're being helpful.
Question?
Any more questions for?
Yeah.
Yes.
Confirming, you bought the vacant parcel in 2013?
There was a house on it.
Yeah.
It was a 4-bedroom, 4,200 square foot house built in the 60s that we demolished to build a new house.
Okay.
New house is on essentially the same footprint.
Yes.
Did you ask another question, Jim?
No.
The property had a house on it already. Did it have the house on it when you bought it?
Yes.
And you demolished it?
Correct.
Okay, so then I need to ask, Carrie, did you include the cost of demolition in your cost figures
No,
to determine
no, I didn't.
what had been put into the house?
No, I didn't. I didn't include any soft costs. I don't know if demolition would be considered a soft cost. But I didn't include any site prep.
You don't clear the land, you don't get what the new house is.
I understood, but I wasn't being aggressive. And I took what I had and I used it. I didn't go any further than that.
Okay. Considering we are all up to our ears in paperwork here, do we have any more questions for anybody?
Am I allowed to ask a question?
Yes, you are. You get to do that.
Is this the time?
This is the time.
The first question I wanted to ask is there any evidence that list price is considered market price? You mentioned the list price of the market.
No.
And do you know what the list price of 150 Russell was initially?
This one, what do you mean by the
The price that went on the market at? The house that sold for
The initial number? No, I don't recall.
$6.5 million.
6.5?
Yeah.
That would be ambitious.
So,
It's sold for like 2.7 or 2.9, something like that.
265. And then, do you know the date and the builder that was on the permit that you used to estimate the building cost of my house?
Let's see.
I do, so I can tell you.
Okay.
It was a little over 2 years before we started construction, and it was not the builder that we used. In the time between that permit being filed, we chose a new builder because we couldn't afford the initial builder, and we made substantial modifications to the plan. So Scott Bickford, the permit officer, said it was okay to use the existing permit, but we didn't need to file a new one. And then I have two other questions, if I may. You said there's uncertainty about whether or not property inspection is considered part of the 706A request, but isn't it true that the state of Maine tax law specifically calls out that the need to inspect the property does not trump the homeowner's right to privacy, which is what we invoke?
Yeah, you're entitled to the privacy.
We're very private people, and so we didn't allow it. Last point I'd like to make.
I can finish responding to you, though.
Oh, yes, please.
It's your right to not allow this in, but there are consequences to that. You deny us the tools that we need to properly value the property. There are consequences. We'll do the best we can if we're honest people, if we're not being aggressive, if we're not, we're being punitive. I'm not being punitive. Like I said, using whatever I had, and I had very little.
When you initially appraised the house, the initial 706A request, Did I not answer every question?
You did, but without the photographs, it was useless.
I see. And then,
I mean, you keep describing your house as three bedrooms,
It is.
3 bathrooms, or 2 bathrooms.
3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms.
My house is 3 bedrooms, and I've got 1 bathroom. But 3 bedrooms, that doesn't define what the house is. And without seeing it, without knowing more about the materials, there's no way to define its value.
But did I not answer all of your questions about the
As I
materials?
said, you did, but those questions were, with that list of questions was a request for photographs. That would have made your responses more relevant to my ability to review.
Could you not have asked for more information about materials?
I needed to see them.
Madam Chair. I think we're getting too much cross here.
Too much grass, okay. Okay, the appellant is up as far as,
I have just
Any
one
other
more question,
questions?
if I could. Have you physically inspected 220 South Street, the house? You said you hadn't seen the pool, so does that mean you have not inspected
Years
that?
ago, I was there a long time ago, but no, I wasn't.
Okay, I don't have any other questions.
They had a permit in 2018. I might have been there then. It was issued in 2016.
Question. What's that property currently assessed for?
$1.3 million.
220?
I'm sorry? 220, yes, $1.3 million. To be precise, $1,306,600.
That's land and buildings?
Obviously, it needs updating.
okay, do we have any other questions from the appellant? Any more questions from the assessor?
So you're all set? No.
Any more questions from the board? We'll entertain a motion to close this hearing and start discussing.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you very much. Okay. At this point, you all may stay, but you may all not enjoy interaction with us. You may listen, but you may not join me. So,
Would you prefer that we leave, or?
Didn't understand that.
Okay.
it's up to you.
We like audiences.
And we will forget your information.
Don't take anything personal.
Yeah. Okey dokey. As for the deliberation, we have we have the appellants do have standing in this matter by virtue of their ownership of the property. And the second one is the appellant's application to this board was timely filed, although it took us forever to get here. Anyway, but we have a long way to go to get to the bottom of the list of findings for you. Anybody have any place they want to start with this?
Do we want to just have a little bit of a discussion first?
Yeah.
My guess?
Okay.
Yes, because that's probably the best way you're gonna
Yeah, for sure.
sort out
There's so
some of
much.
these things, because there is so much. Not sure we want to address each and every point, but
There may be others.
there may be all kinds of others. Okay, who's got a point they would like to talk about?
Seems like there's no issue with the land value, right? It seems like everybody was on board that that was being common.
Mhm.
We're focusing really on the land value.
Right, except our job is not to separate those two. Our job is to rule on the entire assessment, but not as a
Right.
portion. So, we want to talk about that. Part of it is wrong. I'm not sure where that's going to get us. Any thoughts on the comps? We're still reviewing them.
There's a lot of comps.
At least I clipped them together. Which made it harder to see, but that's all right. Okay.
My initial thought on the bulk of this is that I think the assessor relied too much on the building permit number. And as a consequence of that, ended up with a result that's not supported. And the use of the three approaches to value, they all have to be weighed individually and together to make sure that the result is reasonable in total. And that's where I circled back on are all the permits cost numbers being used for the assessment purposes. Regardless of the method used, the final result needs to be measured against what else is going on in the market, what other assessments there are out there.
And we got to remember that this is not current, this is a year back.
Right. That's why I was questioning the sale dates. There's some discussion on 706A. I think for all practical matters at this point, that is not something I'm concerned with.
I agree.
Okay, so as far as the disclosures that were requested according to 706A, are we not concerned about that?
If we were concerned about that, we wouldn't have gotten this far in this hearing. Because that's the first question. 706 was not complied with. I mean, there's no standing,
And we threw it out.
and we would be done by now.
Okay, so then, would you like to make a
Want me to put that in words?
finding which talks about 706 was complied with?
We'll come back to you with something.
That's all right. We're here until 12.
There's some, that's what I've been doing as well.
I'll give it a try. The town of Rockport accepted the information provided in the 706A request. They weren't happy, but they accepted it.
its actual purity at the end. So, probably not some more words.
Okay. Does this sound anything like what you were thinking? The town of Rockport accepted the materials provided by the appellant to the 706A request. By the appellant.
In response to, maybe? In response to the supplemental request? And I don't know if we need to, I don't know if this needs to be made back, but the materials were a written list and did not include photos.
They'll figure it out. Right. Materials included the written request and not photos.
I think that basically is right.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if does the drawing in the back dimensions match the building permit, or how are these figured out?
Now, go back to what Jim was saying earlier, saying this is a different way maybe, but I think that Town of Rockport did this discussion here, we're an extensive job of trying to determine what the value of the property should be.
Yeah.
Actually, they did more than an assessor would normally do. But what Jim was saying was that ultimately they relied on the estimated construction cost, which I don't, may or may not have been necessarily correct. And we're just discussing things.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to just have it here so I can refer back to it. Okay, the assessor. Building permit? The latter part of that. The assessor relied upon the costs of the project on the building permit.
To determine its value.
The property value.
So are you guys able to decipher, if you look at the tax card and the dimensions of the house and all, was that all pulled from the building permit?
I didn't get that. Did that.
Okay. I was just trying to figure out if the final dimensions that were on the tax card are the same as were on the building permit.
Ooh. Okay, where's the subject?
For square footage and
Yeah. Do we have the subject?
Tax card.
Yeah, there's two pages.
L.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or just does an assessor actually go out there and measure? How do you do that?
I always used to measure. 50-foot tape and 100-foot tape and.
I mean, I guess that wasn't disputed, so, but there was just mentioned that things had changed since the building permit.
Well, then, so we need to
Yeah.
down again.
That's good.
Okay. So do we have a finding on that?
No,
No.
no, that was just a
right.
question.
Okay.
I don't have another question.
Um, Is the cost method appropriate to assess this property?
All you need to do is consider all three methods.
Okay, so were all three methods considered?
We heard of two, right? We heard,
Okay, that's all right, because you can eliminate one that is not applicable to the subject.
That's not a good perspective.
Okay, so the cost, income, what's the third one?
Market.
Market and cost,
Income.
approaches were used,
Considered.
Consider.
were considered.
Because the income approach wouldn't.
if income approach wasn't applicable.
Right, market and cost approaches were considered in the valuation of this property.
I think the assessor's reliance on the cost approach resulted in a valuation that exceeded the direct sales comparison approach for some
Okay, wait a minute,
properties.
say that, I
I'm just
gotta
talking
finish
about-
writing this before I can hear you. Okay, sorry.
They always want me to repeat things after I write. I think the assessor's reliance on the cost approach resulted in a valuation that was higher than the direct sales comparison approach. Meaning that that approach to value is valid, but that also needs to be tested against other approaches to value. For example, a warehouse gets built for $1 million, but the market says we're only going to pay you $500,000 for it, even though it's brand new. The cost approach is valid if you're doing that consistently through the town.
Okay, assessor's reliance on cost approach.
Sole reliance. I will add that.
Okay. Assessor's sole reliance on cost approach
Resulted in an assessed valuation. I'm watching your pen move. An assessed valuation that exceeded the evidence of the direct sales comparisons.
Exceeded the evidence of the,
Direct sales comparison approach. I prefer that wordage as opposed to market because income and costs are also market approaches. Not that I do any instruction on that kind of thing.
You can't stop teaching, can you?
no, you do that and it just happens.
So the other way I wrote it down was, based on the property sales information presented, the subject property was substantially over-assessed and that the assessment was manifestly wrong.
That you did all the work there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good.
Well, okay, you want to, thank you.
Yes.
Based, yes, that's where we started. Oh, Wendy's going to have to read this.
So I just mentioned the property with the 54 acres and the oversized cement pond. If that one's incorrectly assessed, the court has found that the solution to that is not increasing correcting a value, it's still doing an abatement for the property subject at hand. Buried in case law somewhere.
Yeah, do we want to write that?
No, it's just an
Okay.
observation.
Just an observation, very good. Okay. Well, we certainly seem to have gotten
To the end.
to the end. Does anybody have anything else that they would like to add into this? Do we want to discuss the subject property is or is not assessed as other similar properties in the municipality? Do we want to go there?
I just want to make sure that we have the numbers right.
Yeah, there's,
So I'd like to circle back to that, just to make sure that
Okay.
I'm in the hoop. And I wrote it down, but I want to do it again. So the land value,
956,800.
56.
Okay, say it again.
956,800.
956,800. Building.
Oh, that's the difference.
it's,
So let's come back to that.
it's
So,
actually 2551.
or, actually, but on the tax bills.
There was an abatement already.
Okay, tax bills, yeah. So I've got that, yeah, 2551.
2. There's not enough numbers there.
Right, there's 3 more zeros after that.
2, 5,
2,551,000.
1,
1.
0, 0.
Gotcha. Thank you.
For a total valuation of 3,507,800.
Ooh, say that slower.
3,507,800.
507. 800. Thank you.
And so that would change the abatement request.
The requested abatement amount.
Yes.
1,057,800.
1057?
Yes, 800.
800.
I concur with that.
Yeah,
Good.
Okay.
Not that I doubted you, but
You want concurrence?
Yes.
All right. So are we granting?
make a motion that an abatement based on the valuation of $1,057,800 be granted. That sound good?
I'll second.
There's also case law that says if the tribunal disagrees with any of the paperwork, they're free to have their own result based on the information presented. And I believe that we have corrected this information to correct that amount.
Yep.
So technically, the application is denied, but we are granting a different amount. Technically speaking.
So that needs to be documented
Yeah.
properly.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think
Similar.
Marion's got it there.
Okay, move and second that we are granting the requested abatement amount in the amount of $1,057,800. Is that correct?
1,057,800.
Everybody believes that number? We good? All right. All in favor?
Are we ready?
Yeah.
Yes.
2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you very much.
So you do a findings of fact, have it out to us, and
Do we have official votes on all those finding of facts?
No, we didn't make. I think
No,
we were missing
those were
one.
just potential.
We had the first two.
We had the first two.
First two,
just
but
that
what about
was-
the notes that you just took about discussion points that we just had that Jim brought up?
Yeah, we should
I think
just-
we have
Well,
had-
he just kind
we
of
have to-
jumped ahead. And-
Well, we have to provide the most complex.
Okay.
So we can move to.
So you
accept
want
them
to
as
go
a
back
slate.
and
right.
provide some complex? All right, I can do that.
Okay.
If this goes anyplace else other than here, then if we haven't documented why we did certain things.
Why we did it, then they'll kick it
That's
out,
right.
yes.
That's right, we'll be back here again.
Because I believe we only have two findings of fact on the record.
We do.
Right.
We only have two. The first two that we have on our potential list.
Okay, the first one we have, do we want to vote on these and not say this is the end, we can add? So we know what we've got that we want to maybe add to?
Yeah, why don't we read them through, and if we all agree with them, then we can move to accept them as a slate.
Okay, and then continue onward to fill in any more that we need.
That's right.
Okay.
Good, all right. First one, the town of Rockport accepted the materials provided by the appellant in response to the 706A request. The materials included a written list and not photos. The second, the assessor relied upon the cost of the project and the building permit to determine the property valuation. Market and cost approaches were considered in the valuation of this property.
I think that's accurate.
Third one, assessor's sole reliance on cost approach resulted in an assessed value that exceeded the evidence of the direct sales comparison approach. Based on the property sales, is that the next one or is that?
Presented by the
Hmm? I'm not sure whether this goes with this or
No,
if it's the
that's
second one.
I think.
Okay, so the one we're talking about now is assessor's sole reliance on the cost approach resulted in an assessed value that exceeded the evidence of the direct sales comparison approach.
Let's say the direct sales comparisons presented and not approach.
Presented.
only to mark that there was no real grid or information or
Okay, okay. All right, and then based on the property sales information presented, the subject property was substantially overassessed and that the assessment was manifestly wrong. Okay, so we've got the assessed value of $3,507,800 with the requested abatement amount of $1,057,800 that we are granting. And
So we did
it
that.
is moved and second that the abatement is granted. Now, is there anything else that anybody would like?
Well, the first two, that he has
Right,
standing.
that he had
Oh, that's
standing.
right, yes, okay.
Yeah, and the board, it was
One and
timely
two.
filed. And there's
And
probably
two.
some others that could.
Yeah,
Do you want to add any?
I mean, you could use number 3, right? We've determined that it was not consistent with other properties, other sales, not properties.
okay,
If anybody agrees with that.
all right. Current assessed value is not consistent. Okay. So, yes, is not consistent. Unjust discrimination in the assessed value of the subject property as compared to other properties in the jurisdiction. Do we find unjust discrimination?
I crossed it off. I didn't.
I don't-
You don't
I
like
don't-
that?
I don't think we need it.
That's fine. Methodology of the assessor in determining the assessment of this property is or is not flawed?
I don't think we need that.
You don't need that.
I have no on that. I don't think it's flawed.
No.
Okay. Now, okay, I already messed up this one, number 6. The assessment of the subject property is or is not inconsistent with recent sales in the town of Rockport. And I already changed that to the assessment of the subject property being inconsistent with recent sales in the town of Rockport is or is not irrelevant due to the assessor not being allowed to inspect the property.
Would you go with that?
You read it back again?
I don't really think we need any
No.
more, honestly.
Okay, we don't need
Do you
that.
think we
All
need
right.
any more?
As long as you have enough to explain how we got to this determination.
Right.
All right. The one that, the assessment to sales ratio is or is not higher for high-priced properties than lower-priced properties in the town of Rockport. Do we want to even go there?
Going to require some sort of.
Do we have enough evidence?
There was no evidence presented that got me.
And we don't
there.
have any evidence.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So this one
We
needs
could
to.
create, we could create or not create something. I don't, that's not our job.
You want it?
We don't need anything that says the physical inspection wasn't allowed.
The physical inspection of the property by the assessor was refused by the appellant's detailed description of the property.
I don't know if we
It
need
was
all of
provided
it.
by the
but-
assessor. Assessor emailed the appellant that the 706 request had been satisfied.
It's not applicable in my notes.
Okay?
Note to self.
Not to sell. That's fine. Anybody else want that? Okay. All right. Physical inspection of the subject property was again requested in the second 706A request and was denied by the appellants.
So
Irrelevant?
not applicable for my view.
Okay. Second 706A request asked for copies of the property's insurance certificate and any appraisals performed. Insurance value is not pertinent to assessment value. Appraised value is pertinent to assessment value only if the appraisal is done for assessment purposes as of the correct date of the assessment.
Not applicable.
Assessor's method of valuing the subject property by relying upon estimated project cost as stated on the building permit application and adding the value of the improvements, including outbuildings, to the value of the land was or was not reasonable under the circumstances.
I don't think it's necessary. I think we've covered that in
Okay.
another spot.
Should we say, you think that there was testimony that final building can change significantly since the building permit.
Oh,
Right,
oh, that's a
exactly.
good one, yes.
The completed project differed from what was set forth in the initial building permit.
Yeah, stop right there. Yeah.
Complete
Thank you.
project. Differed. Substantially
Different,
Differed, yeah.
just different.
from,
Yeah. What was set forth on the building permit.
The original building.
okay, assessor's explanation of the erroneous use of current values divided by 2020, we never even got there. Okay. Subject property is or is not assessed as other similar properties in the municipality.
We kind of do that already.
Yeah, I think we've got that.
Okay, I've got the things, I've got a Moser Roads fix the thing on that. It's- Makes it more substantial. Burden of the taxpayer is to prove that the assessor's valuation was manifestly wrong. Yeah,
It's a statement.
Yeah, I don't think we need
we don't need
that
to
as
do
a
that.
finding of our fact.
The cost method appropriate to assess this property. I've got so many pieces of paper. Oh. Do you like how many things we have?
I, there.
Are we happy?
Do you think we're missing anything? Substantial?
Two happies over here? How many happies do we have here?
One or two, maybe.
So I mean,
Maybe, we're still
I'm
working
good.
on the second.
I'm happy, but
That-
it's just,
Yeah,
Ready to go?
take your time.
That's all right, you've got 17 minutes.
You have more
Take
minutes
all of
than
them you
need.
want.
Take all you need.
We have time to get it right.
That's right.
All right.
Time to get it right.
I do not envy Wendy having to figure out what in the world is on these two pieces of paper.
Found Wendy to have many skills that
And Wendy
help
has
us achieve.
extreme skills, yes.
yes,
Yes, maybe.
yeah.
Well, we've still got 16 minutes.
What's your hesitation?
Trying to build a solid case, I mean, but,
It's all right.
you know, this is in the,
Do you think?
this is in the law. You know, the petitioner was affirmatively demonstrate by credible evidence that the just value of the property.
Mhm.
We're kind of saying that down in Rockport was wrong, we're not actually saying that the applicant
That the
was
assessor-
right.
Yeah, the owner was, yeah.
I see your point.
Yeah. But
Result might be the same.
did the assessor prove that the requested amount was wrong? Or does the assessor need to do that the requested amount was wrong?
I mean, you know, the fight might be that we accept the valuation presented by the applicant. So $2,450,000.
Okay.
I'm rushing because I wait until the last 13
All
seconds.
right. That's not a problem. We're here. Don't worry about it. Okay, so how do we want to put that in?
That's what it is.
Read that back, if you would, please.
I haven't got it.
Oh.
What I was doing is use this So the question was, we find Rockport wrong, but it is that value that presented, the statement needs to be made saying that the valuation presented by the applicant is correct or is accepted.
Is more believable.
So let me, I see where you're going. The petitioner affirmatively demonstrated.
Talk slowly.
I know, big words.
Affirmatively.
I know.
Petitioner affirmatively.
Demonstrated.
Wait a minute.
4 syllables. By credible evidence.
Wait a minute. By credible evidence. Yeah?
Of the just value
Mm-hmm.
presented by the assessor, Town of Rockport, was manifestly wrong. Kind of like that. That's a good path. Where are you at?
The petitioner affirmatively demonstrated by credible evidence that the just value presented by the Town of Rockport assessor was manifestly wrong.
I would just say Town of Rockport, not the assessor.
Okay. Presented by the Town of Rockport was manifestly wrong.
Like it. Feel like it was.
Is that where you were going?
Where I was going was trying to.
More or less.
He was right. Yeah, his valuation was right.
I think that's what this is.
Yes, Vernon is to prove that it was wrong.
Right. Yeah. You don't have to prove that you're right. Oy, oy, oy.
Okay, so I make
All
a
right.
motion that we accept everything that Marion has set forth on this piece of paper
And this piece of
as
paper.
findings of fact.
And second.
Okay, it's been moved and second. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you very much. It's still 5 yes. Okay. Motion to adjourn. Thank you. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you very much. Go home. See, it's possible.
Possible.
It doesn't have to.
Have a nice weekend.
You too.